Two men in fake uniforms stood at my property line, demanding I hand over the deed to my family's land. They left in ambulances. The taller one tapped a blade against his leg. The other gestured past me toward the house where my wife and kids were inside. Both wore vests with community security printed across the chest. The gate between us was locked. The "No Trespassing" sign was 30 years old. "We need the deed for verification," the first one stated, his tone leaving no room for discussion. "The association requires it." My hand rested on the grip of my holstered sidearm. "You're on private property. You've been told to leave. This is your final warning." They shared a smirk. That casual, knowing look told me they'd done this before and expected no real consequence. "Before we go on, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments." To grasp why armed men thought they could seize a deed at gunpoint, you need context. I'm Jack Sullivan. This land has been in my family for 3 generations. We run cattle. We mind our business. The trouble started when a new housing development appeared a mile down the road. Its homeowners association decided our acreage was part of their view corridor. First came polite letters requesting easement discussions, then official notices claiming we were in violation of community aesthetic codes. I responded with copies of our property survey and state statutes. The letters turned aggressive. Then the veiled threats started. A note left in our mailbox: "Cooperation is easier for everyone." Strange trucks idling at the end of our drive at night. Last week, a message slipped under our door: "Think of your family's safety." Today, they made their move. 2 hired enforcers at my gate, armed, demanding proof I owned what my grandfather had homesteaded. The man with the knife took a step forward, the metal glinting. "You don't want problems out here. Accidents happen. Livestock get loose. Kids can wander." A cold stillness settled in my chest. He wasn't talking about the deed anymore. He was talking about my family. I drew my pistol, bringing it to a low, ready position. My voice was calm, flat. "Drop the blade, turn around, walk away." The other man scoffed. "You won't shoot. This is just paperwork." In that moment, I understood with absolute clarity. This wasn't about paperwork. It was a test of who would flinch. And standing with my home at my back, I had reached the absolute limit of retreat. They didn't retreat. The knife man took another step, his boot crunching on the gravel drive. He lifted the blade, not to strike, but to show he could. "Last chance, old man. Hand it over." I adjusted my stance, my sight picture settling on his center mass. I said, "Drop it." They laughed. It was a short, derisive sound. I fired. The report echoed across the pasture. The round struck the knife wielder in the torso. He stumbled back, the blade flying from his hand, shock wiping the smirk from his face. I fired again. He went down. The second man froze, his bravado evaporating. His hand darted toward his waistband. I shifted and fired a third time. The shot hit his shoulder, spinning him into the gatepost. He screamed, collapsing into the dust. The world became terribly quiet, broken only by the wounded man's whimpers and the distant sound of my wife crying from the porch. When threats cross a property line, they become attacks. I didn't advance. I commanded, "Don't move," my voice carrying in the sudden silence. I backed toward the house, never lowering the weapon until I set it on the porch rail and raised my empty hands. "Call the sheriff. Trespassers, shots fired, self-defense." Sirens pierced the calm horizon. The sheriff's deputies arrived with controlled urgency. I remained still, hands visible. They secured the scene with professional detachment. Paramedics pronounced one man dead at the gate. The other was loaded into an ambulance, bleeding and babbling apologies. I gave my statement, the threats, the knife, the warnings, the mention of my family. The deputies listened. They photographed the knife, the gate, the footprints. They reviewed the footage from our security cameras, which had captured every word, every movement, from 3 angles. The sheriff, a man I've known for years, put a hand on my shoulder. "You did what you had to do, Jack. The law will see that." And it did. The investigation was thorough. The 2 men were not HOA officials. They were convicted felons, hired muscle. One was on parole. The fake vests were bought online. The paper trail led directly to the HOA's Development Corporation. Emails surfaced discussing pressure tactics and resolving the Sullivan situation. The district attorney ruled the shooting a clear case of self-defense. No charges were filed against me. The fallout was swift. The HOA board resigned en masse. The development company faced a cascade of lawsuits and was eventually dissolved. Life on the ranch resumed its rhythm, but the silence felt different, safer. My wife stopped jumping at every nighttime sound. We installed brighter lights on the gate, but the old sign remains. Now, when I walk that fence line at dusk, I'm not just checking for breaks. I'm remembering a simple, brutal equation they forgot. A man defending his hearth holds a power no piece of paper can grant. They came with threats and cheap authority. They learned that on this side of the gate, the only law that matters is the one written in the soil, in history, and then the unwavering resolve to protect what's yours. This wasn't a property dispute. It was a line in the dirt, and some lines once crossed cannot be uncrossed. If you believe in the right to defend home and family, show your support. Hit the like button for Winds of Thought. It helps us share these crucial stories of justice.